Welcome back to the channel, everybody. I'm sure you're all well aware of the horrific events that happened yesterday in Utah with Charlie Kirk. Obviously, the internet is absolutely insane with speculations and conspiracy theories. You know, you got the FBI saying stuff while the law enforcement departments are saying the FBI have no idea what the FBI is talking about. Really weird stuff. And this is not going to be a tinfoil hat conspiracy theory video at all, CIA, Mossad, anything like that. What I hope to do is just provide some clarity to a ton of stuff the media is not talking about that myself and a bunch of other Green Berets who've helped me sort of compile all this data to give you guys a more holistic view of what we think actually happened, right? And then I also have had help with information coming directly from the Utah Sheriff's Department. So we're going to do our best to walk through this, all right? And then we're going to take all of this information, decision-making processes, site selection, all these different things, and see if we can come to a conclusion together. Was this a professional hit? We're also going to shut down some sort of misinformation, bad takes. Charlie's wearing a bulletproof vest. Charlie gets hit but from behind, all these sorts of different things that we've pretty much disproven. All right, so let's jump into it. Stay with me. This one might take a little while. Here we go. So decision-making processes of where this took place. Lot going on here. All right. First of all, it's in Utah on Utah Valley campus. Some really, and again, these are just things to think about, okay, as we try to figure this out together. So this is not typically the type of campus where you're going to see huge sort of hate and blowback towards Charlie Kirk. All right. So as far as I know from the campus, it's 60 to 80% Mormon, highly conservative. We saw by tons and tons of students in the crowd who were there as massive fans of Charlie Kirk. Why is that important? That's really important because this campus would be sort of seen as a lower security threat and risk, right? When you're in friendly territory, you're less likely to potentially think something like this could happen here. Also, you're in an area and in a campus that's comparatively to, places like LA or Chicago, very low crime, very low risk, very low threat. And as far as I'm aware from the law enforcement agencies, the Utah Valley Police Department is very small. They most likely did not have very many guys on shift. They're not that well trained. They typically deal with domestic violence cases, some drug cases, things like that. This is way outside the realm of what they're usually used to dealing with. Now, if you're someone looking at this as the target, these are very beneficial things to you, okay? You most likely know there's not going to be police or not very many on campus in a low security postured area. Probably not a whole lot of security cameras all over the campus. I mean, I know even at University of Oregon, there's hardly any anywhere. And interestingly, the Utah Valley College campus is actually a concealed carry allowable college, right? So students are actually allowed to have weapons on campus. I know that's surprising to people. Most colleges aren't that way, but they can at this campus. And while people might think that makes it more dangerous, that's actually statistically not true. Areas with high levels of concealed carry have low levels of violent crime. Now, let's get into the location, the campus itself, and how the campus is actually set up, because both of those things are also very important in the decision-making process here. All right, location. This is important when we're planning entrance routes, exits routes, escape routes, off the target, things like that, because we do know this person got away. Okay, that's the reality of it. The FBI is trying to claim they've had 5 different suspects. They've all turned out not to be true. As far as the law enforcement agencies have told me, with my connections there, they have no idea who this person is. The best they have is that it was a person wearing black. Okay, so regardless of what the FBI is saying, the law enforcement departments are not saying that. All right, now things to think about. You have Utah Valley University here. Okay, what do we have right next to it? A main highway, Highway 15, which conveniently actually leads you only 4.4 miles down the road to Provo Airport. Now, I'm not here to tell you that that is what the shooter necessarily did, that he pre-planned this, had a flight and a ticket out, but I will tell you, with that highway being down on the south side of campus, where the shooter we'll get into right now actually most likely fled from, that's a quick hop in a car ride, 5-minute car ride right down to the airport, and you're out of there. Also, even if you were just be on the main highway to drive out. All right, so you're starting to see how many advantages the shooter has at this point. All right, now let's get into the actual location, because, man, this is a sniper's dream. Like, this location is just absolutely perfect. So as you see here, bottom of the amphitheater here where Kirk was speaking, about 200 yards up here, And we've pretty much confirmed, and we'll get into it. I'll show all the different angles and the different landmarks that show the shooter with the video of the shooter actually running away, that the shooter was most certainly right in this area on this raised platform here. On the top of this, we believe it to be a parking garage. And so if you look around this, you have this massive elevated building here, full line of sight to the amphitheater. I mean, you have basically a 270-degree around here, just raised platforms, roofs, all the way down into this tiny centered bowl here. I mean, massive, massive advantage. Also, you know, way back here, we'll also show a different angle. Okay, so different angle here, but this is important. All right, so you had your shooter here. Again, we know that based off this landmark. I'll show you this in a second. Takes the shot 200 meters away. What do we have here? We see him run this way, most likely to this exit of the parking garage, I would assume. Important things here. We have a parking lot right back here behind the building. We see him take off here to the left, most likely to this structure here that would have got him out of the building itself. Just a quick, probably 45 seconds, 30 seconds to get down into the parking lot if you had a car pre-staged. In the chaos of all that happening, the first 30 to 45 seconds, you bail out the back, you jump in your car, you're on the highway in a minute, you're gone. All right, and so here is how we know this is actually where the shooter is if we analyze this closely. So fortunately, actually, somebody caught this on video. They're right behind Charlie Kirk. We'll show that in a second. Okay, you can see the shooter here. All right, why is this important? Do you see this raised outposted terrace here? That is this protruding outpost right here, okay? So that's how we've actually identified that landmark, that right here is where that shooter was running off from. Again, this way, most likely to this structure to leave out the backside of the parking garage. All right, as again, you can see here, shooter to the right side, moving to the left, that little outpost that we could see in the video. Because there's Charlie's tent. All right, so one final look at that, right? Charlie's tent's right here. That would have put that camera right there, which gives you that perfect line of sight straight to this, right? As you can see just over the top of this roof, you see this outpost structure, the shooter moving that way. All right, so maybe this was all luck, right? Maybe this was just all coincidences that all just worked out for the shooter. Is this a situation where we have multiple people involved? That person on the roof isn't actually the shooter. The shooter may have been in a building, inside of a building below that. Again, all speculation and conjecture at this point. But obviously, to my point again, this person got away, which leads me to believe that not necessarily just some random dipshit. But again, let's actually get into the actual shot itself. There's a lot going on here too. All right, first thing we're just going to show you is just kind of disprove some speculation and rumors that are going on around here. All right, first one that I've seen, and I thought this at first, right? If you actually, and I can't show you the actual videos of this, right? It's way too disgusting and graphic. But what a lot of people thought based off of that initial shot is you saw his shirt sort of lift up, sort of rattle the chest, and then blood starts to come out the left side of Charlie's neck. A lot of people thought Charlie's wearing bulletproof plates and that bullet potentially refracted off the plates, come up. It does look like that. However, we've slowed it all the way down. We've gotten to the point where like the very split second where you see initial blood start to come out and there's actually no damage, nothing to the shirt. What is even more identifiable about this and proves he has no plates on is this picture. All right, the obviously dead giveaway here. You can see Charlie's nipples, and I can tell you guys they don't make fake nipples on bulletproof vests and bulletproof plates, okay? So that's sort of been thrown out the window at this point. Next one I've seen, conspiracy theory, he was actually hit from behind, and what we saw was an exit wound, as if this was some staged assassination hit, you know, with multiple people involved. So no, the problem with that, right, when we actually... Again, slow down the footage, which I can't show. You can see the impact, the rattling of the chest. Really why that shirt gets lifted up is most likely the vortex of the round pulling it up. We see his body throttle, and then, you know, you have a split second wait, and then you see the blood come out. That's not really how an exit wound works, okay? An exit wound typically would have blown out faster. Not only that, in an exit wound, especially, we'll get into potential what the round was when we get into shot placement here in a second. You're dealing with a 308 round or a 5.56 round, an exit round is going to just rip tissue and shit and blow a huge hole, okay? The exit wounds are going to be a lot bigger than an entrance wound. You can tell by the actual video that, I mean, that's definitely an entrance wound into the neck, okay? So what we've pretty much clearly identified with this wasn't a refraction of the plates. It wasn't hit from behind. This was a direct shot to the left side of Charlie's neck here, which looks to be straight in the jugular, carotid artery. All right, now let's talk about the actual shot itself. A lot into this. All right, so the FBI is trying to say they found the rifle. Here's the thing. So there's a bunch of witness statements from, and people in Utah, almost everybody hunts, right, claiming that they thought it sounded like a 22. Now, due to the damage to Charlie, it almost certainly was not a 22. But what may sound like a 22 is a suppressed 308 or a suppressed 5.56 round. If I had to guess, I think it was probably a suppressed 308. Also, when you hear on the iPhone audio here,
counting or not counting gang violence.
It can be super hard to tell over an iPhone audio camera, but that sounded like a suppressed 308 round, most likely to me. All right, now back to the shot itself, okay? Because I see a lot of people saying this is a professional shooter because they hit a 200-meter shot, right? I'll just be honest with you. While, shooting a potentially moving target, although Charlie is, sitting in a seat, not necessarily easy. But 200 meters is not a difficult shot. Anybody who's been to basic training has passed those qualifications, no problem. In a high duress, high stress situation like that, little bit of elevated to that, but this doesn't inherently make this guy a professional shooter because he hit, or gal, I guess, because he hit this shot. But some things to think about, okay? So the shot was from about 200 meters. If it was a trained shooter, okay, probably has, 100-meter zero on his weapon. If he's aiming directly at the tee box, if he's got a red dot sight on, not sure. Obviously, it's speculation on what he's using. The tee box here from about 200 meters, maybe 5-6 inch drop of that round, okay, which would actually be perfectly sort of in line with where Charlie got hit. However, you do have some things like the fact that he's from a raised, elevated position that can kind of counteract some of that bullet drop. So again, I have no idea where the shooter's potentially aiming, but I mean, the shot was hit. It was from a pretty decent distance. So, I mean, the person knew the basics of shooting at least. All right, and there's also some very just weird, suspicious stuff going on around this. Again, the FBI said yesterday, early in the day, announced that they had the shooter in custody, while talking to the law enforcement department said, we have no one in custody. Like, have a massive manhunt. We just pulled down Salt Lake City, Utah's SWAT team to help out. This was after the FBI claimed that they had the person in custody. The FBI now is putting this pictures out. I mean, is this potentially the shooter? Maybe. Is this just a kid in a backpack going to class? Maybe. I mean, it's very, very odd that you have all these agencies basically saying different things. The FBI is making huge claims constantly. They've caught him. They got the weapon. Well, the law enforcement departments are saying, yeah, what are you talking about? So very, very odd stuff with this. All right, you may have seen this guy that got arrested because he was in downtown Utah and had a pellet rifle in his car. I think this is initially who the FBI jumped the gun and said was the shooter, this old man. They obviously let him go afterwards. Yeah, guys, look, if this was a actual professional hit, which again, who knows, right? But maybe the guy just got lucky and got away. But if all this stuff, all the things we went through, I mean, it was the perfect location, perfect target site, like all of these things line up for, most likely this person is long gone, guys. Especially if they're trained, right? If this is a well-trained person, they're gone. You're not going to find them. They could be in Thailand right now for all that we know. And especially if they had help. And some of the really odd things about this of, you had that initial person, the old man in the dress or whatever, screaming, that was arrested, that they claimed was the shooter for almost an hour, which, guys, just so you know, that was a big problem because if the police department thinks they have the shooter, they didn't set up a perimeter. I know when the sheriff's department got there, this was absolutely chaos still. They were still just trying to clear rooms. And if that person could have been off that back structure into that parking lot in a car in 45 seconds, I mean, they could have been at the airport, on a flight, or, 2 cities over by the time anybody even figured out they didn't have a shooter yet. So again, I'm not going to tell you that this was a professional or not. I'll tell you there's a lot of things that lend towards me thinking they had a decent amount of training. They put at least quite a bit of thought process into this. This wasn't just some random kid who woke up in the morning and decided to take a chance of this. I don't believe that. for how well trained, how much involvement. I don't know, guys. That's going to be where the conspiracies and the speculation comes in. But in my final sort of take here, hopefully we provided some good information for you guys. Again, I'm not going to tell you how to think or what to think. But yeah, I don't believe if they do find someone now or going forward, the odds of that actually being the shooter, I think, is slim to none. Will we get someone that's sort of arrested and accused? And yeah, I mean, probably it's going to be very hard for the FBI at this point, after all their billed claims of having the shooter apprehended, to not find someone, especially with something as high profile as this. But we'll just have to wait and see on that. All right, again, guys, I'm not claiming to have the answers here. Just wanted to give you, a breakdown of all the information that we've compiled and sort of figured out that the mainstream media really isn't showing you. Okay, so that's going to do it for this one. I'll make another video if we get a lot more updates and stuff happens. But that'll be it for now. Take care, guys.